Let's get started with this week's style review. You'll find it inside the style review folder, inside the lab folder for week 5. In the browser, it looks like this currently. You have seen the CSS Zen Garden video on Khan Academy. This is an example of an HTML file from the Zen Garden, the original actually, which started this whole, Zen Garden was the first place where it really showcased what you could do with CSS and got people to take it seriously. So it's a relic, but it's a really cool historical relic for us in web design. Okay, let's start with some of the big ones. I haven't made this an exhaustive review from last week because we have a lot to do today, but let's get started with a few things. I'm going to put the styles in the head because that's where we have been putting them. In the glorious, not too distant future, we will be splitting these styles out of the head and putting them in a separate CSS file that's linked to this HTML file. Style, style, closing it up. So from last week, we learned about the importance of having a default rule on the body, and so I'm going to do that right here, and this is where I'm going to put my default font for the page, font family, and I'm going to choose Arial Sans Serif. This means the browser will look for the Arial font to be installed. If it's not installed, it will default to whatever the default sans serif font is. Let's put a font size of 100% on the body. Then this is what that looks like. Not too different, just a little bit. Okay, now let's do a couple overrides for headings. According to the PDF that's showing me what I want this final result to look like, the H1s should be 2 times as big as the default paragraph text. So I'm going to set a font size here that applies just to the H1. I like to do it in M's. You could also say 200% here, but I think it's more usual to do it in M's. I don't have any more font sizes here, but I have I want H2s to be small caps and I want them to be underlined. So currently they look like this. This is the H2. There are actually, I think, oh, my mistake. H3 is what we're talking about here. Let me double check that I'm in the right. Yep, H3 is what we're after. So let's have an H3 rule for small caps. Small caps is a font variant. And to take the underline off, that's a text decoration. Actually, to put it on. I'm typically taking it off of links, which is why I'm in the habit of saying none, but in this case we want to add it to the H3s. Okay, so let's see what that looks like. Here we go so far. And for our last trick, we are going to change the link color from blue to red. So there's a bunch of links down here and some lists. There are links interspersed throughout the text. Let's make those not be blue. So we haven't done a link yet last week, but you know how to do it. You just have to go through and find out what the tag is. If you can't remember what tag you used, now is the time. And you can either scan through here, or probably even faster would be to go to the browser and right-click or control-click on Mac and say inspect, just to remind myself what that tag is. Oh, it's an A tag. Okay, so if it's an A tag, then that is my selector, A. And I want them to be red. What kind of red? I don't know, let's just say red. I actually like dark red. That's gonna work well later on. If I had a convenient hexadecimal color chart here, I could paste in the exact red color I wanted. Or if you're working with a mockup in Photoshop or something like that, I could paste from a hexadecimal color in from a color picker or a mockup. Another tool that I really like a lot, which is not really in this week's content, but is the ColorZilla extension. So if you go in a new tab in Chrome and ColorZilla, what you can do is install a ColorZilla extension in your browser, which will allow you to pick your colors from a web page, which is really convenient. So I would suggest installing ColorZilla. And the next video, we'll get started with this week's styling.